Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we'll be talking about the changing nature of the media with the publisher of the Los Angeles Tribune. His journey just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, when I was growing up, everybody took the paper. In fact, I remember growing up in Detroit, there were 2 papers, a morning paper and an afternoon paper. And then when I got to Dallas in the early 90s, there were 2 papers, you know, the Dallas Morning News and the Dallas Times Herald. And now famously, newspapers are closing right and left. It takes a true visionary to step in and buy and resurrect a brand like the Los Angeles Tribune. And I'm speaking to such a visionary right now. Moe Rock joins us. Moe, thanks for coming on the show.
Jeff, thank you so much. It's a pleasure and privilege to be with you, and thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Well, we've known each other for a couple of years now, and I've been so impressed with you. First of all, let's talk about this brand. This brand is 130 years old, Los Angeles Tribune. Tell us the history of the brand and why you stepped in to buy it.
Well, absolutely, and we're approximately 130 years old as far as the name being part of the culture of journalism and part of the fabric of California. And really, when I think about that, Jeff, it reminds me to look in the mirror and tell myself that I'm not a CEO, I'm not a publisher, I'm just a steward. Because the Los Angeles Tribune name has been around before I was born, and God willing, it'll be around long after I walk into the sunset. So the question is, while myself and my team are leading this name, what are we doing to make sure that we honor it? What are we doing to make sure that we rebuild the trust between, civilians and newspaper companies? And what are we doing to redefine the role of a newspaper company? You know, you mentioned there's a lot of newspapers that have joined the dinosaur club. Now, I don't know what you know about dinosaurs, Jeff, but that's not a club you want to be in. And so for me, as somebody that sees brands as something that has an intrinsic value, I understand that there are ways to navigate the world of business and the world of journalism as long as you have a powerful brand. And so that is essentially what we've done with the LA Tribune, and turned it into a positive platform. You have a background, Jeff, in mainstream media, and so you better than anyone know the term, if it bleeds, it leads. That's not a term we like at the Tribune, right? And so what statistics tell us is that for every 17 pieces of negative news, there's only 1 piece of positive news, which I define as a solution-based piece of journalism. And, I discovered that a few months ago doing research for a TED Talk. And so when we see the ratio is 17-1, well, we've got to do something to help bridge that gap. And that's why I love the work that you do. I love the people that you highlight. I love the leaders that you and your firm highlight. I think what you did leaving in 2008 and branching off on your own was a great contribution to the world of journalism. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, the work that we do at the Tribune is to focus on positive news, leaders, and help redefine the role of a newspaper company.
Yes, and I can see why you're so successful. We found a video. You did this about a year ago. Let's go ahead and roll that video.
Well, there's never been quite a time like today in the landscape of the media. Traditional print is dying. In fact, in many markets, you would say that it's essentially on life support. And statistically speaking, the vast majority of millennials and those that were born past 1988, past 1990, they're not using newspapers as a main source of information. So one of the challenges as a leader in this particular field is to adapt, is to pivot, and is to make sure that the decisions that we make are specifically related to a market that's moving at a Mach 10 speed, which is why I always encourage people to make decisions not predicated on what has worked in the past, but predicated on what you can utilize with regard to your own research and development and with regard to what you project the future will be. So in other words, every decision that we make is not a decision that we make during the time of this interview with you in 2021, but how is this decision going to affect the marketplace in 2025, 2026? And so for us, the answer is a combination of digital media and interactive media, which is why all of our programming on our Roku TV network has an element of audience participation in it, which is why our emphasis and focus, particularly in the post-pandemic era, has been in digital content creation and not print media, because we don't want to be a part of something that is dying and losing momentum. Instead, we want to be one of the leaders in an emerging market.
You're such a great evangelist for the message, and thank you for what you're doing to save newspapers in this country. I think everybody's going to be following your lead. Now, I know you wouldn't brag about yourself, but I found out just before this broadcast that you just received a very high honor. Can you share that with us?
Absolutely, Jeff, and I believe you're alluding to something that I'm still pinching myself about, and that's, of course, a few days ago, I received the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award as part of the President's Volunteer Service Program, a program that George W. Bush started in 2003. He announced it at the State of the Union. Each president since then has kept it as part of their administration, and I have it here, right here with me. I still haven't had a chance to frame it, but, you know, Jeff, this is not about me. And all of the recipients of this award should never make it about them. It should be about what it represents. And it represents service. It represents making your community a better place. It represents valuing volunteerism. We live in a society where we value celebrity. We value material goods. We value all of this nonsense. And there's a time and place for all of that, but to make it the number one value in our lives, I disagree with. I believe that something like what this represents should be the number one value in our life. Service, actually caring about our fellow citizens, civilians, and the world. And so, again, I have to pinch myself because I started with such humble beginnings, and to sit here and have an award from the President of the United States was something that I couldn't even imagine. It was certainly a surprise. But the irony in it, Jeff, is the second I stopped caring about accolades is the second I started getting them. And so I think the message and the lesson is to just focus on your work. For the folks watching that are entrepreneurs, just focus on your work, do good work, and don't be attached to the outcome, because that's been my mentality and mindset the last few years. And again, I'm just so humbled and honored to receive this award. And when we received it a few days ago, I was amongst some other really incredible people. So it's exciting. I'm still processing it. I think it's going to take me a while to process, but nonetheless, I'm just really honored to share the message of volunteerism and share the message that helping your community is actually a cool thing to do.
Boy, if I won that thing, I wouldn't put it in a frame. I would wear it around my neck every single day. So tell people more about your philanthropy. I know you do a lot of work with homelessness and veterans.
Absolutely. We've supported a lot of organizations over the years, financially and by way of media support. And in Southern California, there are a lot of problems, but there are also a lot of people working on the solutions. And so we at the LA Tribune do what's called pro bono services, legal services. Our chief legal counsel is also on the board of the Veterans Legal Institute. And so we do a lot of things to help not just aspiring entrepreneurs, but especially veterans and especially veteran business owners. So if someone is a veteran business owner and they're just getting started and they need help in the right direction, you can reach out to us and we'll connect you to SAGI and we'll connect you to the Veterans Legal Institute and find ways to support you and find ways to guide you and find ways to help the people that are the true heroes of our country now have a chance at their American dream. And so that's one of the things I'm proudest of that we do is our work for the veteran community. In fact, this award, I was nominated by a organization called Operation Impact that works with U.S. veterans. And again, I think that being lucky enough, Jeff, you and I are lucky enough to have our own platforms. We should definitely use these platforms to spread the kinds of messages we're talking about today, to give back, to be aware of the true heroes of our country, and to act. And you know, the real message is there's no act of service that's too small, right? Someone may be watching this thinking, well, I don't have access to lawyers. I can't give legal help to veterans. I don't have the resources to go out and feed the homeless people. Well, start with what you have. You know, no act is too small. If you have 1 can of food, can you donate that to a local food bank? Start there. And so I think also the message I'd love to share is that no act of service is too small, because there's a compound effect. When everyone in this country thinks that they're powerless to do anything positive, then that's going to be the reality. But if everyone just starts with one small action, suddenly we can transform this country for the better.
Yes, and you were telling me right before the show that you are now in a position to award this to others. Explain how that would work.
Well, we are now working with AmeriCorps, and we're working with the U.S. President's Volunteer Service Division, and we're officially, as of just literally a few days ago, a certified organization. And so our editor-in-chief, Ava Manuel, is running that program for us. What that really means is individuals that volunteer with us, individuals that have a track record, individuals that have specific hours that they've logged into volunteering can now qualify for various different accolades from this branch of the U.S. government. And this lifetime achievement is the highest honor, but there are a few other ways to highlight and honor those that are actually giving back to the community. There's a bronze, there's a silver, there's all sorts of things, and I'm still familiarizing myself with it, and Ava Manuel is doing a great job of leading that for us. And so that's, again, another pinch me moment, because we are now working officially with AmeriCorps and the U.S. government to continue the good work that George W. Bush started in 2003. And here we are 21 years later, still continuing that work. And I want to thank all the presidents since then for keeping this program, because I think it's a very important program, and it's a bipartisan program. It's not about being Democrat or Republican. It's about volunteerism and making your community safer and making society better.
Outstanding. Congratulations, and thank you for leading by example. We've also got your website. We're going to pull it up and scroll down the website. I want to talk to you about how you go about choosing the stories to feature. You mentioned it at the beginning, you know, you're not a if it bleeds, it leads guy. How do you choose the stories that make your front page?
So there's a simple question that I tell my editorial team to ask. Does the following program, and we have multiple different divisions. We have a podcast network, Jeff, that does 1.6 million downloads monthly. We have a virtual summit division that's had over 12 million views in the last 4 years. We have our print newspaper that we still have. Even though we love digital, we also respect those that appreciate print. And the question for everything that we do, and by the way, we have a television network as well. And whether it's a TV producer, whether it's a journalist, whether it's an editor, question is this: does the following piece of content empower our audience, or does it disempower our audience? Jeff, I believe that if every newspaper company in America made it mandatory to have that question asked before they publish or print something, we would have a transformed world that we live in. Because I believe that the newspaper doesn't just report the news. In many ways, it creates and cultivates the minds of the people. And so there's a big fiduciary responsibility here, and that's the question that we ask.
Wow, I'm so impressed with you, and your empire continues to expand. In fact, I know you have a partnership in the NASDAQ. Let's go ahead and roll that clip.
Jane King here, and together with the Los Angeles Tribune, I'm excited to be part of a special broadcast called Money Forum Live, where we'll be discussing the future of income and investing. We'll have interviews with experts breaking down all the ways people will be getting ahead this year and in the years to come. Everything from money making new tech and innovation to specific markets like real estate, crypto, stocks, venture capital, and more. This is not just a broadcast, but a public service being shared over Facebook Live, so you can join the conversation right now at moneyforumlive.com for free.
So impressed with you, man. You're a serial entrepreneur. You can't turn it off, can you, Mo?
I've tried, and I start breaking out with hives. So I learned my lesson.
Well, in the final couple minutes, I want to talk about what you see in your crystal ball for the media going forward. In order for these newspapers to survive and other print and radio and television outlets to survive, do they have to reimagine themselves and get more connected with their audience?
There's a pendulum swing, Jeff, and the pendulum has swung to one extreme, and that's that in the last 8 years, let's say 10 years, last decade or so, the average individual in America stopped putting newspapers on a pedestal and stopped looking at newspapers as though when they print something, it's omnipotent, or when they print something, it's absolute. And so there's been a lot of disdain for traditional print the last few years. And so people have gone to other sources for their information, other alternative outlets, other alternative news sources, alternative media. Alt media became a thing just, since the inception of the internet. But I believe that the pendulum swing is going to go the other way, and we're going to have a nice balanced society. I believe that we need to have every voice have an opportunity to have an outlet, not just mainstream names, not just big brand names, but everyone should have an opportunity to express their opinion. But I also believe that the traditional brand names are going to start having actually more power in coming years, because everything is cyclical, and when the pendulum swings this way, eventually it swings back that way. And so we're just focusing on doing good work. We're an independent news company. We're not corporate. We're very entrepreneurial in our spirit. We're very entrepreneurial in our staff, and in our culture. And we do a lot of work with the entrepreneurial community. So we're not very corporate. And I think that gives us more creativity and more freedom to experiment new things that you don't traditionally see a newspaper company do. Things like what I mentioned earlier, how we have pro bono legal services for certain individuals, workshops, films that we're currently producing, TV shows. We just launched a women's TV network out of Chicago, one of our media company affiliates in Chicago called JD3. We're working with them on a women's network, and so many incredible things, Jeff. And we've even done programming in Dallas, in a wonderful studio in Dallas that I personally recommend and endorse, that's led by a visionary and industry veteran. And so, again, just positioning ourselves to be one of the preeminent sources of not just news, but specifically leadership news, empowerment news, and solutions-based journalism.
Wow, Mo, you are so inspirational. Congratulations again on that Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award and all the wonderful things that you're doing in your community to make it a better place. We're going to end with Mo's website, which is the LosAngelesTribune.com, the great Moe Rock. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.